Imagine being born with the wrong hand, not the wrong personality, not the wrong religion, not the wrong skin color, the wrong hand. For thousands of years, that was enough to make people quietly nervous around you, to keep you out of certain jobs, to correct you in school, to whisper that you were cursed, or worse, that you were in league with something unholy. And the strangest part is this: left-handedness isn't rare, it isn't an illness, and it isn't due. So why did so many cultures look at the exact same trait and decide it belonged to the devil? Because this story isn't really about hands, it's about what happens when a species that survives by copying each other meets a minority that moves differently. It's about fear disguised as tradition. It's about language quietly loading a weapon, then aiming it at a small percentage of the population for no reason anyone can fully explain. And once you see how it happened to left-handed people, you start to notice the same mechanism everywhere. Let's start with a simple, uncomfortable fact. Most humans are right-handed, and it's not even close. Depending on the population, around 9 out of 10 people prefer their right hand for fine control. That kind of skew is unusual because evolution usually likes variety. In animals, you often see small preferences, or split populations, or context-dependent choices. But humans went hard. We built a world of right-handed tools, right-handed greetings, right-handed weapons, right-handed writing systems, and then, because we're human, we acted surprised when the small group that didn't fit started looking suspicious. The first ingredient is brutally practical. In many traditional societies, the left hand was the cleaning hand. No plumbing, no paper, no sanitizer. One hand becomes public, the other becomes private. And once a culture assigns moral weight to hygiene, it's over. The right hand becomes the hand you eat with, greet with, swear oaths with, make offerings with. The left hand becomes the hand you do not bring near anyone's face. So when someone reaches out with their left, they're not just being different, they're violating a deep social boundary. It's like showing up to a formal dinner in muddy boots and insisting it's your personal style. People don't read it as preference, they read it as disrespect, but hygiene alone doesn't explain the word choices. This is where language starts acting like a slow curse. In Latin, sinister literally meant left. It didn't start as evil, it was directional, just a simple label. Then the label began collecting feelings, bad omens, wrongness, something off. Meanwhile, the right side gets dexter, the root of dexterous, meaning skillful. Think about that. One side of your body becomes a synonym for talent, the other becomes a synonym for darkness, not because of biology, because of metaphor. And metaphors aren't innocent. Metaphors are how a brain that hates randomness creates order. If you want to predict the world, you start sorting it into piles, safe and unsafe, clean and dirty, normal and abnormal. And once a culture is repeatedly telling stories where the right is correct and the left is wrong, you don't need laws to enforce it. People police it automatically. A child grabbing a spoon with the wrong hand gets corrected the way you'd correct them for touching a hot stove. Quick, sharp, emotional. Not because it is dangerous, but because it feels like it should be. Now add religion, which is basically symbolism with a memory. In many Christian traditions, the right hand is associated with favor and blessing. Christ seated at the right hand of God. The sheep on the right, the goats on the left. The right as light, the left as judgment. And once your culture's most powerful moral narrative ties virtue to one side of the body, left-handedness stops being a quirk and starts being a sign, not proof, a sign. The kind of sign anxious humans love because it gives them a target for their fear. So why did the sign stick so hard? Because left-handedness is visible, consistent, and rare enough to feel special. 10% is the perfect number for superstition. Too common to ignore, too uncommon to normalize. It's the same psychology that turns comets into prophecies and eclipses into warnings. Most days the sky behaves, then it doesn't, and your brain, desperate for meaning, whispers, something is coming. There's also a violent little detail hiding in plain sight. For most of history, people carried weapons, not as a hobby, as a fact of life. A right-handed population develops right-handed fighting styles, shields on the left arm, sword in the right hand, formations that assume everyone moves the same way. A left-handed fighter becomes unpredictable, their angles are wrong, their timing feels strange, and if you're a soldier, strange is not interesting, it's lethal. Over time, that unpredictability turns into reputation. The left-handed person isn't just different, they're dangerous. Not because they chose it, but because your muscle memory can't read them. And humans do this thing where we turn tactical discomfort into moral disgust. We don't say, "I'm not trained for this." We say, "This is bad." It's easier, it feels cleaner, so the left-handed opponent becomes a trickster, a cheater, someone who fights unnaturally. And notice how quickly that moves from the battlefield into daily life. If your culture is built on standardized motion, anyone who breaks the pattern can be treated like they're breaking the rules. Then comes the great amplifier, school. Modern schooling didn't just teach children facts, it taught them synchronization. Sit this way, write this way, march this way. The world became a factory of uniformity, and left-handedness became a manufacturing defect. For generations, children were forced to switch hands, sometimes gently, sometimes not. Rulers slapped knuckles, hands were tied behind backs, pens were placed in the correct grip like a moral lesson. And what's eerie is that many adults who lived through it will tell you it wasn't framed as cruelty, it was framed as help. That's the most human kind of harm, the kind that genuinely believes it is saving you. But if left-handedness is just a harmless preference, why was it even seen as something that needed fixing? Here's the deeper layer. Our brains associate fluency with goodness. When something is easy to process, we tend to like it more, trust it more, believe it more. Psychologists call it processing fluency. A face that matches the average seems more attractive. A sentence that rhymes seems more true. A movement that matches the norm seems more correct. So when a right-handed majority watches a left-handed person write, cut, throw, or gesture, it can look slightly awkward. Not because the left-handed person is incompetent, but because the tools and environments are built against them. Scissors fight their grip. Desks smear their ink. Handshakes feel off. The world creates friction, and then everyone blames the person for the sparks. Now here's a twist that makes the story darker, not lighter. Left-handedness has sometimes been associated, loosely, inconsistently, with higher rates of certain injuries, accidents, or even specific developmental factors. Not because being left-handed is bad, but because living in a right-handed world can be more physically risky. Imagine 10% of people using machinery designed for someone else's body. The small increase in accidents becomes folklore. Folklore becomes moral judgment. Moral judgment becomes proof that something is wrong with you. It's a self-fulfilling superstition disguised as common sense. And the brain isn't random here. Humans are a species of imitation. We learn by copying. That means we're wired to see the majority as the map of reality. If 9 people do it one way and one person does it differently, your nervous system doesn't think, interesting variation. It thinks, potential error, potential threat. The same mechanism that helped your ancestors avoid poisonous berries also makes them side-eye the one person in the tribe who holds the spear in the other hand. In a stable world, that's just prejudice. In a fragile world, it feels like survival. You can see hints of this even in other animals. Many species show lateralization, preferential use of one side, one eye, one paw, depending on the task. Parrots have favored feet. Cats have paw preferences. Even fish can show turning biases. The difference is, animals usually don't build a moral system around it. They don't write poems about how the left fin is unholy. Humans do. We take a statistical pattern and turn it into a story. Then we live inside that story until it feels like nature. And when you combine hygiene taboos, religious symbolism, military unpredictability, tool design, and our brain's addiction to patterns, you get a perfect storm. The left-handed person becomes the walking reminder that the world isn't fully controllable, that not everything lines up, that the human body itself contains variation. And to a mind that wants certainty, variation feels like a crack in the wall. If the wall can crack here, where else can it crack? Over time, the fear softened, but the language stayed. Left still drags around a shadow in many cultures. We still say someone gave a left-handed compliment, as if even praise from that direction must be suspicious. We still feel a tiny jolt when someone reaches with the wrong hand in a formal moment. And yet in the modern world, left-handedness has flipped into something almost mystical, creative, rebellious, special. which is interesting because it proves the entire thing was never about truth. It was about vibes, a cultural mood, a story we told ourselves about which side meant safety. So if you're left-handed, you're not carrying some ancient darkness in your bones, you're carrying evidence. Evidence that human beings are unbelievably good at turning small differences into cosmic meaning. And if you're right-handed, the story still belongs to you, because the same instinct that once made people fear the left hand is the instinct that still hunts for the odd one out in every room, every comment section, every tribe. The next time you write or shake a hand or notice someone moving through the world at a slightly different angle, remember how easily a direction became a demon. Sinister was once just a compass point. Then we fed it our anxiety until it grew teeth. And if that idea rearranged something in your head, if it made the world feel a little stranger and a little clearer, subscribe to join the Obsidian Mind, because we're not done pulling apart the stories hiding inside everyday life.